Hey guys, and welcome back to another episode of Lost Bits right here on TetraBitGaming, the series where we explore the scrapped, unused, and unseen content in video games. Finally here by popular demand, very popular demand, is a Lost Bits video for Super Smash Bros. Brawl. Although I don't think it's the best Smash game, it is one of my favorite Wii games, and I have very fond memories of it and all the hype leading up to its release. Like, come on, name one thing more hype than the Smash Dojo in 2007 and 8. Well, I guess there's the B-movie game. Anyways, guys, we got a lot to go through, so let's get it. It's time to find some Lost Bits. Alright, let's kick things off with several characters that are referenced in the game's files, suggesting that they were scrapped from the game. In no particular order, we got Dr. Mario, Mewtwo, Roy, Dixie Kong, Toon Zelda, and Toon Sheik, which I assume was to be Tetra from Wind Waker, and Pra_Mai, which is believed to have been Plusle and Minun from Pokemon, as their Japanese names are spelled Prasol and Minun respectively. Now, I'm not sure whether some of these were to be assist trophies, Pokeball Pokemon, actual fighters, or just shown in the background of a stage. Like, I almost think Toon Zelda or Tetra may have just been background characters in the pirate ship Wind Waker stage, and I'd imagine Plusle and Minun would have just been assist Pokemon rather than fighters. Furthermore, for Dixie Kong, in an interview with Famitsu, the legendary Masahiro Sakurai mentions that Dixie was actually planned to be part of Diddy's moveset, as she could be tagged in and out of the fight in some manner. Then, as far as the fighters that didn't return from Melee, I can only assume time, storage space, or perceived demand were a factor in deciding to leave them out this time around. Other fighters that were apparently considered at one point or another to be added to the game but don't have any references left over include Pac-Man, who Sakurai rejected due to his pizza-shaped design being too far-fetched, Villager from Animal Crossing, who Sakurai felt was too cute of a character and wasn't suited for battle, Mii's, which were cut since similarly Sakurai thought shouldn't be punching and kicking. Blastoise was apparently supposed to be part of Pokemon Trainer's squad, but was cut since Sakurai felt Squirtle was a better fit, and the different sizes between the three Pokemon would be a better dynamic. I hate you, Sakurai. Crystal from Star Fox Adventures, who was later replaced by Wolf, since due to time constraints, the developers could more easily build off of Fox and Falco. And finally, Geno from Super Mario RPG was considered due to his popularity, and Sakurai thought he could easily fit into the universe of the game. These plans ultimately fell through, likely due to issues with Square Enix co-owning the rights to the character. My fingers are still crossed with the hopes that he gets added into Smash Ultimate. Anyways, by now, I guess Sakurai looked past his reservations, as most of these have since been added to the series as fighters or assist trophies. Similarly, there are also references to several enemies that are believed to have been scrapped from the Subspace Emissary adventure mode. Highlights here include Dry Bones and Buzzy Beetles from the Mario series, and Bronto Burt, Bonkers, and Blade Knight from the Kirby series. And although Waddle Dee and Waddle Doo appear as part of King Dedede's moveset, being grouped in here suggests that they might have also been planned to be in the game as subspace enemies. I'm not too familiar with the rest of the names here, so they were likely just more original subspace enemies. Then, as far as unused items go, found amongst the text for items used in training mode, there is reference to some sort of hover disc, as well as a variant of the X-Parasite from Metroid Fusion. I'm not sure exactly how either of these would have been used. Scrapped characters, enemies, and items are cool and all, but you know what else is cool? Well, yeah, that's pretty cool too, but how about some cut game modes? Well, first is a scrapped game mode that was apparently going to be called Slipspace. According to this text string left over in the game, this was planned to be some sort of beat-em-up mode. Apparently it was going to be one continuous match where players could join in, leave, and replace other players in the lobby until the game was finished. Other text suggests that it was going to be an online mode and only playable with anyone, and no coding to be able to play it with friends remains. And the timer could apparently be changed from 1 all the way up to 60 minutes. It sounds like a pretty cool concept. I'd love to see this unearthed in a playable form someday, or in a future Smash update in Ultimate. There's also another online mode that was scrapped, and that's an online version of the boss battles mode. By hacking this mode in, it can be seen in the character select screen that a co-op high score counter and the ability to toggle the difficulty was implemented, suggesting that this may have been scrapped closer to Brawl's release. Now let's press on to various graphics left over that either go unused or contain some secrets. First up in a big series of texture stuff is a small hidden Easter egg found on the texture for the Metroid Assist trophy. Surprisingly, on the texture is a small sprite of Mr. Saturn from Earthbound. Now this area of the texture isn't mapped to any part of the Metroid model, which is why it's never seen. It's possible this is here by accident, but it's just almost too random that I feel like Mr. Saturn was put here on purpose to be a developer secret. Similarly, there's also a normally unseen thing found in Snake's head texture. Hey, it says def_f_o layer. Not sure if the text being right under the 3 different hair things matters, but I know def is a function in some coding languages, so maybe this was some sort of reminder on how to define this texture or something. Next up, we got textures for Link's Ordon sword from Twilight Princess, even though the sword doesn't make any appearance anywhere in this game. I guess maybe at one point earlier in development, Link was planned to wield the Ordon sword instead of the Master Sword. The Master Sword is definitely more iconic, so good change I would say. Now in rapid succession, all unused, we got parts of Ike's hair, several 2D objects from New Pork City, and some distant planet tile textures. Then next we got this. This weird unseen texture honestly looks like a programmer drew it up in like a minute. Is it supposed to be Mario? Ness? Who knows? I'll let you decide. Moving along, we got more unused textures like the back of Goombella's trophy, an early unused version of Jigglypuff's stock icon, Mario's stock icon from Melee, Giga Bowser's stock icon also from Melee with Boss 1 overlaid, probably was used as some sort of placeholder, an unused texture meant for an also unseen 20 pellet from the Distant Planet stage, this placeholder character role portrait with the word nothing written on it in Japanese, some early textures for the stage builder, a blurry version of the frigate Orpheon Light which is believed to have been intended to create some sort of glowing effect, textures for a splash effect from the Mario Bros stage, an unused Boo texture which we'll come back to later, a collection of Great Maze character icons, and finally some unused CD labels. These appear to be of Ocarina of Time or Majora's Mask, Star Fox Assault, and Yoshi's Story, and I think these were probably meant for either the trophy descriptions where it shows where characters were from, or the Masterpieces mode where the game lets you play some classic games for a bit. In any case, out of these, only Ocarina of Time is available as a masterpiece, and neither it nor Yoshi's Story were on a CD. So yeah, I guess these just didn't make any sense. Next up is this unused level bar heads-up display thing. Now it's not entirely clear what this was for, but I think it's likely it was meant for some sort of leveling up RPG-like mechanic for the Subspace Emissary. PP here apparently might refer to power points, which was also a scrapped scoring mechanic. And speaking of the Subspace Emissary, there are also several placeholder screens for the cutscenes, I guess before they were finished. What the cutscene was planned to be, as well as how long it would last, is written in Japanese. For example, here we got Bowser's surprise attack on the princess, which was to last 20 seconds. And then we also got this sample version of these same images. Nice, a placeholder for a placeholder. Now for a bit of an oddity. Apparently the textures for the Perry Trophy from Super Princess Peach are titled Peach Text C, D, E, and F. And this follows the naming convention of the rest of Peach's textures. This, in combination with the model for Peach's umbrella literally being named Weapon Peach Kasar, which is Perry's name in Japanese, strongly suggests that Peach was once planned to use Perry as her parasol. And lastly, for the textures, it appears that there was a scrapped mechanic in which characters would show signs of wear and tear, I assume when taking enough damage. What do I mean? Well, there are certain textures that show parts of a character cracked or damaged. Things like cracks in Meta Knight's mask, Link's sword and shield, Marth and Ike's swords, Lucas's bat, and Captain Falcon's helmet, which would have revealed his eye, which, fun fact, is the same eye texture that Snake uses. No. This idea is further supported as the crack is on the left side of Captain Falcon's helmet, and this explains why he only has that one eye modeled. Now, while some of these are used, most of them aren't, so I do believe having weapons show wear, and even break apparently, was planned to be a feature in the game. I'd be willing to bet that most of these were removed because it would have been too hard for the player to even see these details with a standard definition resolution. It's too bad it was removed because I think it would have been a really cool mechanic to see, and it could have even been game-changing if items like Link's sword could indeed break during a fight. Now, with 2D stuff out of the way, time to move on to the third dimension. First, we got some stage builder tiles that go unused, including tile sets with a nature, ruins, and laboratory theme. Then there's Colin from Twilight Princess tied up to a spear meant to be seen in the Bridge of Eldon stage. I assume he was going to be carried on the spear by the King Bulbin, just like he is in Twilight Princess. Then there are unused parts of the main Port Town Aerodive platform, which are believed to have made it glow like this. And also an unused early version of Luigi's blue costume, which was left over. Looking good, pal. Luigi looks weird here because for whatever reason, this model has its shadow model integrated with it instead of being separate. Next, we got several trophies that didn't make it into the final game. I'll blast through them all quickly here. We got Donkey Kong and Diddy Kong from DK Barrel Blast, Dread Kong and a Party Monkey from DK Jungle Beat, Meta Knight's Sword, Hellerins, and then several leftover trophy models from Melee are still found in the game, like Samurai Goro, Donkey Kong Jr., as well as a bunch of the fighters. Just like how Melee had several trophies for each character, Brawl 2 was apparently once planned to have the same, instead of just one non-Final Smash version each. As such, several second version fighter trophies didn't make it into the final cut, including Diddy and DK, King DDD, Lucario, Captain Falcon, Luigi being a wuss, Mario, Falco, Zero Suit Samus, Pit, Pikachu, Jigglypuff, Zelda, Sheik, Snake, and Pokemon Trainer. I suppose at one point the developers felt the Final Smash variant was seen as enough for a second trophy for each character. And while on the topic of trophies, apparently Ridley may have been planned to appear in Brawl as an assist trophy. This is pretty heavily implied by an empty effect file for Ridley that is found amongst the other assist trophies in the files of the game. And lastly, for 3D stuff, there are several fighter animations that are unused in the game. These animations include Fox and Falco looking around furiously. It is believed this is from a scrapped mechanic where their blasters would misfire or overload. You thought tripping was bad in this game? Imagine your blaster just randomly overloading once in a while. Then we got an animation of Diddy Laughing, which, based on its name, was likely meant to be used after a player slips on a banana peel thrown by Diddy. The Pokemon Trainer jumping, falling, and landing. Zero Suit Samus seemingly throwing items with her Plasma Whip. Wolf using the rapid kick move, implying he was going to be even more of a clone of Fox and Falco than he already is. Kirby using his down special hammer attack, which was later implemented in Smash 4. And lastly, an unused animation of Captain Falcon gracefully landing to the ground after turning his enemies into Blue Falcon Roadkill during his final Smash. This animation was also later reused in future games, starting with Smash 4. Then, although not exactly a fighter, there are also several unused animations for the sandbag, in which it would be grabbed, held, and hit. Since these exist, and appear to have been worked on a decent amount, it suggests that the ability to grab the sandbag was planned to be implemented, and might have been scrapped late into the game's development. Although it was there in Melee, the ability to grab a sandbag wouldn't be implemented until 2018, with the release of Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. Link also has some unused graphic effects. We have Link Kaiten Giri and Link Kaiten Giri Air. I think it's pretty obvious this effect was going to be used with his spin attack while on the ground, as well as obviously in the air. There's also this texture for this effect as well. Alright, let's take a bit of a break from all the models and graphics with some unused audio, of which there's surprisingly a lot of. First are a few unused sounds of each character yelling in pain after being sent flying from a strong attack. This set goes unused for each character in the game, so I won't play them all, but here are a few of my favorites. A lot of these unused sounds were actually later reused in future Smash games, as many of the voice clips in those games were recycled from Brawl. Furthermore, there are several other unused miscellaneous voice clips and leftover melee sound effects for certain characters. Again, in the interest of time, I'll just play through all of them quickly.
Yes! You're through! Gotcha! Take this! The aura restored.
Now, my power is without rival.
Here we go! There!
Oh, and there's also this version of the effect heard in Melee's classic mode before a stage begins that's normally associated with the placeholder cutscene images I mentioned earlier. Since those are normally unused, so is this jingle. And finally, there are two unused voice clips of the announcer announcing a fighting alloy team and that a stage has been cleared.
Fighting Alloy Team, stage clear!
Now those are just the audio files that are still left over in the game, but there are also quite a few that were outright removed with just their file name remaining. These include tracks from Mario and Luigi Partners in Time, Link's Awakening, Yoshi's Cookie, Star Fox Command, Fire Emblem, Earthbound, Wario Ware, Animal Crossing, several tracks from previous Smash games, the main theme from Metal Gear Solid, a remix of it from Beatmania, and lastly the Japanese and European version of the title song from Sonic CD. The last few there were very likely removed due to licensing issues. Next, we got a few unused text strings that were meant for the notice messages. There's a period, a dash, and one that would have just congratulated the player for collecting 100 songs. The first two I can only assume were just test messages. Not really anything to do with unused stuff, but looking at all these unused audio files made me think back to those unheard lyric videos that were made around when this game first released, which 12-year-old me found super funny. Yeah, this was YouTube in 2008, much simpler times. And finally, just like we did in the Melee Lost Bits video, for the last stop here, let's zip the game's camera around and see if there's any cool things that are normally unseen to the player. But before we get to the stages, let's first check out the title screen and menus and such, since honestly they have much more to talk about. First up is the title screen, which I always just assumed was a pre-rendered video, but nope, turns out that this is actually a 3D environment too, and we can even see all the different layering with the logo, the background text, colors, and effects. Similarly, the menu screen is also a 3D space, and right away when zooming out we can see a few things hidden away out of normal view. First is this thing found way up top. This is the same graphic that is used to keep track of which submenu you're on, so I assume this is just stored here so the game can call it in when it's required. On the bottom of the area are these rectangular things that at first I had no idea what they were for. This is until I selected a mode and saw that they changed colors to the theme of the mode that was selected. Based on how they move, I think they are somehow related to the next color splash that appears behind the text on the bottom of the screen when switching modes. When it's gray, the next splash too will be gray, when it's yellow, the next one will be yellow, and so forth. Next is the background that is used for several of the vault options, which we can again see isn't just a 2D image, but a whole 3D backdrop with this texture layer to make it more interesting than just a boring gradient. For the stage builder, in addition to some arrows hidden out of view on the top and bottom, it was cool to view the screen from a side angle to see the parts in 3D way deeper than the screen layer, and also how the backdrop image is completely disjointed and found way further back. Then we got the trophy room, which also has a few unseen goodies. Just under normal view, we can again see some stored away graphics that I guess are called up. There's the "Got It" graphic that shows up when getting a trophy, as well as a tiny text box that I could hardly read, since if I brought the camera too close, it would actually get called out. It's however the message that asks if you're sure you want to use a hammer to break open one of the trophies. Lastly here, it's interesting that although the camera culls out most of it, the entirety of this trophy room is rendered as a big circle that just rotates. Well, at least I think it's cool. Then, as far as the coin launcher minigame goes, basically the only notable thing here is that the missiles and triangle enemy things are actually found hidden below the table until they are called. So we can see the missile just awkwardly floating in place. And lastly, before we get to the stages, we can look at the character select screen from a different angle to really juxtapose the difference between the 2D background image and the 3D hand and character select token models. We can see graphics hidden off screen when other players aren't connected, and just like we saw in Melee, on the results screen here, we too can see a bunch of graphics hidden out of normal view that pop up as the player progresses through the results. Okay, and now finally, let's get to the stages. In the interest of time, I'll only be touching on the stages that have anything noteworthy to really talk about. So first up, the quintessential competitive stage, Final Destination. Now, although there's nothing really hidden here, it was really cool just to see how absolutely massive the background is on this stage, and just how breathtaking some of the effects are, either from a different angle or just up close. Like honestly, I kinda got lost in thought just flying around in here. It's so captivating. And I just found these effects so cool to see from different angles. Next, we got Delfino Plaza, which I think we all know is a very detailed stage. But when looking at it closer, I was surprised to see the other stages off in the distance, just like we saw in the Super Mario Sunshine Redux video. Either way, it's a very detailed stage as far as Brawl goes, that's for sure. In Luigi's Mansion, if we bring the camera just under Chauncey's bed here, we can see the unseen Boo sprite I mentioned earlier that isn't seen anywhere else in the entire game. It is a Boo, so it's not exactly out of place here, and it's actually the same texture that is used for the Boo balls in Luigi's Mansion. So I think it's far more likely that this was placed here on purpose by a developer as a hidden little Easter egg, rather than this just appearing here by accident. Also, I don't think I ever noticed this while playing, but the entirety of the stage is held up by some weird rock formation that if we take the camera far enough, we can see it extends pretty far down. Definitely not how the mansion is seen in the original Luigi's Mansion game. Not too much to say about Mushroomy Kingdom other than if we zoom out, we can see just how far the stage extends given that it has a scrolling mechanic. It's interesting to see many things are loaded off screen, like way before and way after they appear to the players, and how things are just loaded in and then culled. Like, for some reason, the end castle loads in way to the left off screen for a bit before loading to the right where it should be coming up. For Mario Circuit, even though the battle only takes place on these crossroads, the entirety of the racetrack is actually modeled despite most of it never normally being visible to the player. It's pretty cool to see that the developers went above and beyond just that much with this stage. Also, unlike in Mario Kart games I've covered before, like Double Dash, here the stage appears to use humans as spectators instead of just random characters from the Mario universe. Just like Mushroomy Kingdom, it was also cool to see other scrolling stages like Rumble Falls and observe how objects are brought in and taken out outside of normal view. Although not being a scrolling stage itself, one interesting dynamic stage to observe was the summit. Right away, we can see that much of the stage is already loaded before where we start, And once the peak starts sliding down, we can see the lower part slowly start to sink down too. It's really strange. Next up is the Bridge of Eldon. Here the interesting stuff is found way in the back, starting with the trees, which up close we can see have a really cool orange glow to them. And also, when looking through a tree, you can see all the other trees unobstructed. It almost feels like I have some sort of tree X-ray vision. Anyway, then of course we got Hyrule Castle itself, in all of its beautiful, majestic, and pointy glory. The castle may look great from afar, but up close we can see it's mostly just a collection of really simple pyramids and rectangular shapes. For Norfair, we can get a much closer look at the awesome details in the background, how weird the massive lava wave looks from a different angle, as well as my favorite part, seeing the lava pour out of nothing. Not much to say about Battlefield, except that we can find the moon hidden away off screen. I guess until it needs to be called when the stage transitions to the night version. Next is Halberd, and on top of the Halberd itself being incredibly detailed, the start of the stage 2 where the Halberd takes off is really cool to see unfold from a distance. It's obvious there was a lot of work put into this just for a quick few second intro to the level. I think you can definitely tell which series Sakurai might have a little bit of a higher affinity for when working on these games. Pokemon Stadium 2 appears to use the same human spectators like in Mario Circuit, and we can also zip past the stadium and fly in and around the city and the various skyscrapers in the back, which again was very relaxing. For Castle Siege, knowing that the stage transitions through several scenes, I was expecting to see the areas hidden away off screen, but nope, the game simply just loads them in instantly during a transition. I guess this has always been here and I must be blind, but I honestly gotta say, I don't think I've ever noticed that there were actually characters in the background in the throne room scene. Anyways, now we can get a closer look at this fella in all of his 2D glory. New Pork City has a bunch of stuff in the background that we can get a closer look at, and I'm not 100% sure this is ever unseen or not, but it appears to be obstructed here by this sign. Behind it we can see the entirety of the sprite with the word Robbo on it. Now I've never played Mother 3, but if this has any sort of significance, let me know. Also, I always knew the Empire Porky building was tall, but looks like it's way taller than we can normally see, and it extends for quite a bit until it fades into nothingness. Here's what the rest of the stage looks like when looking down from its highest point. Pretty neat perspective. I started playing Subspace Emissary to see if there was anything noteworthy, but after a few stages, I found that outside of just seeing the large portion of the stage that was loaded in already, there's really not much to see outside of normal view. That said, if you guys do want me to go in deeper into the adventure mode, let me know and I might make a quick video on it in the future. Anyways, next we got Sega's seemingly favorite stage to reuse, Green Hill Zone. We can, of course, get a closer look at Tails, Silver, Nux, and all the other small details in the background. But what I think is really interesting here is that just like with Mario Circuit, here there is a lot to the stage that is normally never visible to the player. And for the last stage, we got Wario Ware Inc., which I think has the most interesting stuff that is never normally seen. So first and foremost, the background at the default area, which I always assumed to be a 2D image, is actually 3D, which was certainly surprising. Then the transition effect to a microgame and how they pulled it off is insane. By zooming out and looking at the stage from the side, we can see just how this transition works. So first, the default background not only moves towards where the camera normally is, but it also grows several magnitudes larger in size. At the same time, the default platforms just kinda get tossed down away from normal view and are just awkwardly left here at a weird angle. When the micro game is done, the default background shrinks and the platforms fly back into place, rinse and repeat. Also, oftentimes, the background from the previous micro game will remain behind the default one. Like here, we can still see the background from the Don't Move microgame, as well as this guy still sitting there. I find this whole process of transitioning between microgames and just how the developers pulled it off absolutely fascinating. All in all, I think it's really cool to get a better look and understanding at how some of the background tricks were done throughout the game. Anyways guys, that will be it for this Super Smash Bros. Brawl Lost Bits video, and I hope you enjoyed it. Absolutely massive shoutouts to you if you made it to the end here. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to slap that like button down below and check out my other Lost Bits videos like the Melee one I made by clicking on the card right here. Also, be sure to swing by my other social media things, which are all linked below, and if you want to support the channel, check out my merch over at TetraBitGaming.com, or consider becoming the latest member of the Bit Club. Click on the join button below for more information. Anyways guys, thanks for tuning in, and I will see you in a bit.